Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics. And I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the People's Choice and the People's Voice. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you're having a wonderful March, ladies and gentlemen. Again, shout out to all the ladies during Women's History Month. And of course, for all that you do, we love you immensely. And of course, here on the show, folks, there's always a lot to discuss. So let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as a proud supporter of the Second Amendment and someone that believes in responsible gun ownership, I was delighted to learn this week that Governor Murphy, along with Attorney General Platkin, took a serious L when it comes to infringing upon the Second Amendment rights of New Jersey residents. So let me give you a little context here, and a shout out to Terrence McDonald with the New Jersey Monitor for his report on this story. Now, it was confirmed this week that the state of New Jersey is withdrawing the threat of any appeal in the federal challenge of the gun law. Now, Attorney General Matt Platkin told a federal judge overseeing the challenge to the state's new gun law that he will not appeal a pair of federal orders that she issued that temporarily blocked parts of the law from being enforced. Now, Platkin's notice last week to Judge Renee Marie Boom came 5 days after he told her that delays in the next phase of the legal challenge made an appeal of the orders, quote, necessary. But after Boom on Tuesday scheduled a hearing in the case for next week, saying New Jersey decided to drop its appeal effort at this time, according to the Attorney General. Now, a group of gun rights advocates have sued New Jersey seeking to overturn parts of the gun law which sharply restrict where gun owners can carry their weapons in public. Specifically, Boom had issued a pair of restraining orders halting New Jersey from carrying out parts of the law while she decides on the plaintiff's push for a preliminary injunction that would bar enforcement of the law as the challenge winds down through the court system. The next hearing in this case was originally scheduled further on this month on March the 17th. Now, the law was signed by the Emperor, Governor Murphy, in December, and it was a response to the U.S. Supreme Court's Bruin decision, which struck down restrictive concealed carry laws as unconstitutional. Right on with the Supreme Court. That's the way you read the Second Amendment, right? Not the way the left likes to do, or the way we like to sort of engage in judicial activism or legislate from the bench. That's not what judges are supposed to do. Now, specifically, the state laws attempt to bar the gun owners from carrying their weapons in a host of public places like bars, restaurants, and beaches, among other locations, and it requires gun owners to obtain liability insurance. The plaintiffs have called the law's provisionals unconstitutional. Now, let me just say this, though. Now, again, folks, whether you are on the side of the Second Amendment, whether you are on the side of responsible gun ownership, we can have that debate. But there's no question the way the Supreme Court ruled on this. Okay, now, specifically, if you want to tell me as someone who believes in responsible gun ownership about having liability insurance, I don't have a problem with that. I think when you are handling a weapon, such as a firearm, I think that there needs to be some accountability. Don't we have insurance on our vehicles, right, that we drive? Don't we have insurance on our motorcycles or other vehicles that we operate? Well, again, folks, a firearm is, well, to some extent, somewhat different. But the premise remains the same. I mean, there needs to be some accountability, and that's what liability insurance is for. So I don't have an issue with it. Now, the problem, again, with it is whether or not it's a reasonable amount. As we all know, New Jersey, in terms of, motor vehicle registrations and insurance premiums, are among the highest in the country. Now, how that would translate to firearms liability insurance remains to be seen. But that's not even the biggest pet peeve I think that most responsible gun owners would have. Very much like the state of Florida and the state of Texas, right? Where we talk about, let's say, restricting a host of public places such as bars, restaurants, beaches, among other locations. Well, if you want to have that discussion, that's a fair argument, folks. But what really drives me crazy is that the governor, along with the far left in Trenton, whether it's Attorney General Matt Platkin, who does the governor's bidding, obviously, right, all about restricting your right to protect yourself, while they walk around with 24-hour 7-day security, whether it's state police officers, either in uniform or undercovers, or even hiring private security. See, they want that for themselves. They don't want it for you, though. And again, folks, that's the typical hypocrisy you can expect from the left, not just in Trenton, ladies and gentlemen, but across the country. Because whatever is, good enough for thee isn't good enough for me. And that seems to be sort of the modus operandi when it comes to many liberals, many who identify as woke, progressives, all that other ilk on the far left side of the political spectrum. But that's where, again, as someone like myself who believes in A, responsible gun ownership, B, accountability, and C, transparency, I don't find an honest discussion here. Because, folks, again, and here's a little bit of a reminder and a refresher. While so many far left groups and all the liberal media, whether it be nationally or here in the state of New Jersey, there is no shortage of ideologues and propagandists that want to talk about mass shootings. They want to talk about the fear and terrors of, automatic weapons and AR-15s. Folks, I don't want to sort of squash the significance of what mass shootings are all about. But folks, let's just go back to 2021. And a majority, if not nearly all of the mass shootings in this country were done with handguns. The majority of gun violence and gun crimes are committed with handguns, not automatic weapons. And as someone, again, who believes in responsible gun ownership and reads up on the data and reads up on all of this, sort of, not necessarily curriculum, but content, that's the truth. Now, many on the left, like the Emperor, right? And at the time, Senate President Steve Sweeney and certainly Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, they didn't want to hear that. They just want to sort of infringe on your right to protect yourselves. Now, again, while they have around-the-clock security, for someone that lives in sort of abysmal areas of New Jersey, take your pick, Newark, Camden, Elizabeth, Plainfield, parts of southern Jersey City, Trenton, take your Atlantic City. Guess what, folks? Maybe a police presence, or at least the ability to have police come to your home in case you're fearing, imminent death, a home invasion, whatever the case may be. Guess what? Police might not get there on time. But the governor doesn't care. He doesn't care about your safety. He wants to virtue signal, whether it's running for president in 2024 or in 2028. But so does the far left in the legislature. And again, going back to Steve Sweeney when he was Senate president, and certainly Craig Coughlin as Assembly Speaker, they were willing accomplices to this madness. So good for Attorney General Matt Platkin for taking an L with grace and humility, because he knows ultimately if it went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, it was going to get defeated again very much like the New York case was. But again, let me get back to sort of the impact of firearms and gun violence, which, again, folks, it's still a serious problem. But let's not get it twisted, and let's not manipulate the facts because you want it to fit your narrative. Once again, folks, whether it's in, dumps like Chicago, parts of New York City, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Atlanta, take your pick, folks. Minneapolis, Milwaukee, okay, all Portland, Seattle, wherever. Some of the biggest urban dumps in this country. Yeah. You want to know what they all have in common? They have some of the strictest gun laws anywhere in the continental United States, and it still doesn't do anything to stop gun violence. Haven't we been fighting a war on drugs for almost 40 years now? Actually, almost 50 years. We're nowhere closer to stopping the flow of illegal drugs from coming across our border. Guess what else comes across our border? Illegal guns. Are we stopping illegal drugs? Certainly not. And that war on drugs has been an abysmal failure. As an academic, you know what? I grade for a living, so I'll give it a grade of an F. But in terms of our ability to curtail and stop illegal guns from coming into the country, I'll also give that a grade of an F. We're no closer, folks, to stopping either or. But somehow the federal government, and again, both parties have been guilty of this, more on the left though, to sort of scare you into hysteria that gun violence is the most pressing thing in your life. Listen, folks, I don't disagree that mass shootings need to stop, and we need to have more of an emphasis on mental health and making sure that the incompetent and inept and useless FBI is doing its job when they're getting reports about dangerous citizens getting their hands on any type of firearm. Yes, we need more accountability. We need more, provisions to make sure that we stop weapons getting into the wrong hands. But for responsible gun owners, especially in New Jersey or anywhere around the country, the last thing we need is our rights infringed upon. The U.S. Supreme Court was very clear on what the Second Amendment is. The left doesn't want to hear it. Phil Murphy doesn't want to hear it. The far left in Trenton doesn't want to hear it. But guess what? When it comes to jurisprudence, they definitely did. And you know what? That's a W for all responsible gun owners. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now some local stories for your consideration. A special thank you to John Hines for his excellent reporting, as always, with Hudson County View for his reporting on this story. Now, NJ 101.5 FM and conservative personality Bill Spadea is coming to Hudson County. And you know what? For fellow conservatives, that's actually a good thing. Now, he'll be headlining a potential Lincoln dinner event in Secaucus at the Longshot Pistol and Rifle Club coming up on Monday night, March the 27th. Now, according to the Hispanic Republicans of North Jersey and their president, Hermino Mendoza, they released a statement this week that they're excited to have and to be organizing another Lincoln dinner, especially with Bill Spadea. We cannot thank enough all the volunteers who make Republican grassroots activism in Hudson County and beyond possible. And we know that March 27th will be a great night. So come and have a great time with other Republicans from Hudson County and throughout the state of New Jersey. Now, early in the month, Bill Speedia opened a new super PAC, which is called Elect Common Sense, where the Ocean County GOP chair, George Gilmore, coincidentally, is serving as its senior advisor, as first reported via David Wildstein on the New Jersey Globe. Now, his expected 2025 candidacy will seek to recruit support from the base of Jack Ciarelli, a former state assemblyman who lost to Governor Phil Murphy by only 3 points in 2021. Now, Ciarelli has already made it clear that he plans on running again for governor for a third time. First time he lost to Kim Godano during the primary in 2017, and subsequently he lost in the general election in 2021. And he's making the rounds across the state, whether it was at the League of Municipalities last November in Atlantic City or Republican events all throughout the state of New Jersey. And of course, at the recent Hoboken Lincoln dinner, which was sponsored by the Hoboken Republicans last month. Other guests announced for the event on March the 27th will include Sussex County Commissioner Bill Hayden and Ariana Brown, along with former regional director for the New Jersey Republican State Committee and campaign manager for Shirley May Akusik for U.S. Senate. Additionally, the dinner will be catered by Hoboken's MMP Biancamano, and attendees will also receive additional information after they purchase a ticket, and they're welcome to participate in a discounted range time prior to the dinner. Again, listen, folks, whenever it comes to shooting at a gun range, you don't have to ask me twice. I love to go. It's therapeutic and it's fun. And you know what, quite frankly, folks, as someone who played first-person shooter video games from the age of 7, I'm still a pretty good shot. But regardless to that, though, folks, Bill Speedia coming to Hudson County is very significant. We know that the Hudson County Republican Party tends to be quite non-existent. And that's not a slap or an indictment of Jose Arango, the county chair, but that's just the truth. They haven't really been mobilizing for many, many years. And it's difficult. Again, speaking as someone who was the Young Republicans chair of Hudson County for 5 years back in the previous decade, I can tell you this much, it really is hard to mobilize. But whether it's Jose Arango as a county chair or Young Republican chapters or even local municipal committees itself, it is very hard to mobilize as a Republican and even more so as a conservative. But folks, don't get it twisted though. Bill Speedia, he's someone to watch out for. And I know that many on the left will say, well, Bill Speedia is so far right. He's a conspiracy theorist. He, pokes holes in conspiracies about the vaccine and about, the election in 2020 and certainly what's going on in New Jersey. Again, we can all have those discussions at another time. But there's no denying, folks, that Bill Speedia is a serious contender. He's been a radio personality on NJ 101.5 FM for some time. He has tremendous traffic, and he has a great following. Now, again, there are those on the far left that will sort of label him a clown or a propagandist or some crazy right-winger. Here's a newsflash, folks. He's none of those things. He's a guy who has a great, great charm to him. You talk to him, and you can easily be swayed by his policy prescriptions. He's also a guy, he's a married man with a family, and he's a guy that checks off all the boxes that you want for someone that isn't part of the establishment. Now, let me just say this because I know that this past weekend in Atlantic City was the NJGOP's Leadership Summit. Over those 2 days in Atlantic City, we had plenty of panels detailing, of course, the importance of conservative media, Hispanic conservatives, Asian conservatives, Black conservatives, more women getting involved in activism and grassroots political work, and that's all well and good. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The NJGOP decides really to drop the ball, and it almost seems like they're doing it on purpose, where there's an opportunity, not just in this election cycle coming up this year, where only legislative seats are the only thing on the ballot, folks, this November, okay? All 120 Assembly and State Senate seats are up for grabs. There isn't a gubernatorial race. There's no referendum. There's no U.S. Senate race. There's no special election or anything like that. Sure, there are municipal elections, for example, in Hoboken with city council races, as well as other municipalities around the state of New Jersey. But, of course, front and center will be the Assembly and the Senate seats. Now, here in Hudson County, yeah, it's as blue as Windex, folks. So you really don't see any red sort of permeating throughout any of the legislative districts. But in Central and South Jersey, though, respectively, Republicans have an amazing opportunity, not just in this cycle, but in 2025 to shave into those majorities, folks. Far-left Democrats have owned the legislature for over 20 years now. It's why we have the highest property taxes in the country. It's why we coddle illegals. It's why we cater to all this far-woke left madness when it comes to sexualizing our children in our public schools, when it comes to spending irresponsibly, when it comes basically to driving New Jersey residents out of the Garden State. And guess what? They'll go to the Carolinas. They'll go to Georgia, Florida, or Texas, where it's a better quality of life and a much more affordable cost of living. But again, many in the left here in New Jersey don't want to hear that. And I think that's where the NJGOP goes wrong. Messaging has to change. I think Bill Speedia could be a very new and different messenger because, again, folks, we all know what the far left does wrong in Trenton. That's known. That's again water, wet. Okay, that's not news, folks. You have to change the messaging. That's how you win over independents. And especially in the last few years, where Democrats have really, I guess, with a fine-tooth comb, have precisely mastered vote by mail and registering new voters, Republicans have to get smart. Republicans have to get wind really that vote by mail is here to stay. They have to embrace it, and they also have to make it work to their advantage. They have to make sure they keep registering people. It's not just about Democrats are bad, bad, bad. We know that many of them are. There are a lot of Democrats here in Hudson County. My mayor is also my state senator. Can't say that about State Senator Stack. He works hard for his community. He works hard for his constituency. He makes it a point to bring money back into the 33rd legislative district. He doesn't believe in far woke nonsense. He's a blue-collar, working-class Democrat. Those aren't the ones that are damaging Trenton. It's the far left ones that, again, inflate the budget. And folks, let's be honest. The budget is getting as fat as the new Victoria's Secret models. Let's be fair about it. And as well as everything else, it's something that needs to change. Maybe Bill Spadia might exactly be that common sense that not just Republicans are waiting for, but also independents are waiting for in the state of New Jersey. Let's continue on. And something that came to my attention via NJ Spotlight News. And of course, folks, Uncle Dave is always good for a laugh. As we know, David Cruz, is always interesting and always a guy that loves to virtue signal and sort of engage in mass hysteria when he needs to. Now, unfortunately, there was a fatal Patterson police shooting that transpired recently. Now, the advocates and friends of Najee Seabrooks, a 31-year-old violence intervention specialist, was shot and killed in Patterson recently by police officers earlier this month on March the 3rd. Now, of course, that has prompted a continuance of calls for reform. As anger grows in the city of Patterson, what else is new? The tone of the demonstrations, peaceful to this point, is growing in intensity. Seabrooks, who had a mental health crisis of unknown origin, was killed after a 4-hour standoff with police. At a weekend demonstration, participants noted the expressions of concern over the shooting that wounded a state trooper in the city the day before the Seabrooks standoff, prompting local U.S. representatives to tweet that he was rushing home from Washington out of concern for his family, including a visit to Patterson from the state's attorney general on the same day that Seabrooks was killed. Now, activists also point to the silence on the killing of Seabrooks by elected officials, including the Legislative Black Caucus, whose chair, Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter, also represents the city of Patterson in her district. Now, recently, late Monday, one of the state's leading social justice organizations officially requested the Federal Department of Justice to intervene and investigate. Folks, what's interesting about David Cruz reporting on this is not so much that, again, it's, pretty succinct kind of, black and white reporting. Again, it's not reinventing the wheel. The problem with David Cruz is this is the same guy that during the summer of 2020, right, when we saw cities being looted and cities being burned to the ground and law enforcement officials were being assaulted all across this country. Across the river in New York, we saw Secret Service agents and Capitol Police being assaulted right in front of the White House during the George Floyd riots. Folks, that's what they were. Okay, it wasn't peaceful protest. It wasn't social justice activism. It was looting and rioting for a career criminal. That's all it was. I'm the only journalist that has the set to say that openly. I said it back in 2020. I'll continue saying it because it's the truth. It may not be easy to hear, folks, but the truth isn't always easy to hear. And the one thing about David Cruz, which is interesting about this report, is the fact that, maybe he learned his lesson from sort of engaging in mass hysteria, because that's what David Cruz likes to do. He likes to virtue signal. He likes to sort of play the brown card when it suits him, right? And sort of be that man of the people, or, that man for people of color. When we all know that David Cruz, again, just likes to manufacture hysteria, very much like NJ Spotlight News and the rest of the liberal media here in New Jersey. But now, again, what happened to Mr. Seabrooks was tragic. There's no doubt about that. We never like to see any young man lose his life, black, white, brown, or otherwise, right? Man or woman, okay? But clearly a 4-hour standoff with police tells you that something was going wrong. Now, whatever the mental health crisis was that he was experiencing of unknown origin, I don't know. Again, I don't want to sound insensitive. All the facts aren't out yet. Okay, we haven't learned what Mr. Seabrooks' condition was, if he was battling something. But folks, here's the reality. Okay, and this is something my parents taught me at a very, very young age. Okay, Fernando, you're Hispanic. Okay, you're brown. Okay, you may run into the police at some point in your during adolescence or your adult life. Just be respectful. Don't be defiant. Don't be going by pop culture norms and saying, oh, let's stand up to the police and let's make sure that, F the police and all of the other rhetoric that pop culture has permeated for almost 30 years. Okay? I learned at a young age. Be respectful when interacting and engaging with police officers, regardless of who they are, men, women, maybe older officers, younger officers, whoever. Be respectful. I'm not saying Mr. Seabrooks wasn't, but folks, when we see a 4-hour standoff, that just isn't for some reason, folks. That wasn't just because someone woke up and said, you know what, I want to be a pain in the ass to police today. Something was seriously wrong. Now, again, when we see police officers being injured on the line of duty, no one likes to see that. Okay? And we get it that many on the far left love to embrace this sort of reform the police or defund the police. Didn't we just hear that since the summer of 2020 during all the mass rioting for a career criminal? Yes. Didn't you notice that in the time since then, it has significantly disappeared in terms of what defund the police means? Because we all know, folks, that when you defund the police, the communities that are most going to be affected are people of color, not white people that live behind, gated communities or white people with money. It's Black and brown people living in marginalized, gentrified areas that suffer the most. So when the far left and all these woke idiots and these progressive clowns in Hudson County or in New Jersey or nationally talk about defund the police, or we need to reform the police or abolish the police, what you're doing, folks, is cutting your nose to spite your face. And if you don't know what that phrase means, you should Google it, because it fits appropriately to sort of the myopic perspective that it comes to sort of the way the police are perceived. But back to this incident in Patterson. I'll give David Cruz credit, actually reporting on this and not sort of, hyper sensationalizing it. Well, then again, though, a clock is right twice a day, too. So I'll give Uncle Dave some credit here, but let's not go too far. And now to Jersey City, and a shout out to the Dean of Hudson County Journalism, Al Sullivan, via Tap Into Jersey City for his excellent reporting on this story. Now, comparing the implementation of current regulations to building an airplane while trying to fly it, and voicing concerns that too much is happening too quickly for the burgeoning industry, the Jersey City Municipal Council appears to take breath when it comes to approving operations for cannabis businesses. Now, Council President Joyce Wyman released a statement this week saying, quote, "We need to halt and have a meeting to clarify as to how to move forward," highlighting the confusion in which 4 governmental bodies, the state, the local cannabis board, the planning board, and the city council all have a role to play in the approval of any cannabis-related businesses. Now, while the original ordinance sets up boundaries for where businesses could be located, it appears that many are already approved or in the process of being approved are in violation of the 600-foot rule, meaning how closely these businesses can operate to each other. Also, at least 4 along Central Avenue in the Jersey City Heights are also going to be in violation, according to Jersey City officials. Also, members of the City Council have voiced their concerns that local minority owners are being pushed out of the business by larger corporate-backed cannabis companies. Currently, to qualify as a minority-owned business, an establishment needs only 5% of the ownership to be female, Black, or some form of minority. Like Waterman, though, who asked what could be done to help the little guy, Councilman Frank Gilmore voices concerns about the lack of opportunities for local business owners. Now, Jersey City is currently the only municipality in the state of New Jersey that has not yet set a cap on total cannabis businesses, prompting the council to consider establishing one after the fact, even though there are more than 40 applications currently in the pipeline, and a number of the businesses have already been approved. Councilwoman Mayor Prince Array added this week, quote, "We need to pump on the brakes, but where exactly?" Noting that the planning board, the cannabis board, and the city council are not talking to each other. That doesn't really seem to make sense, folks. Now, Mayor Prince Array said without the cap, Jersey City may see more corporations fronting businesses with a few minorities, leaving local minority owners to come in last. Also, she noted that the faster pace of approvals may be making a number of people uncomfortable. We are seeing a clutter effect here, and really a cluster. Now, Councilman James Solomon in Ward E agreed that there are clear questions that need to be worked through, but disagreed with a suggested 6-month pause, saying that a 6-month pause would create a lot of confusion as to who came first. Maybe within 2 months, we can come up with some sort of set of rules, according to a suggestion he intimated to local media. Now, folks, let me just say this again, and let me preface this by saying that I've never smoked marijuana. I don't care to. It's not something that interests me. I'm more of a red wine guy at home, and I'm more of a whiskey guy on the weekends. But I understand that marijuana, especially recreational cannabis, has its uses. We all know medicinal marijuana and how beneficial it is. I know plenty of people. As someone who volunteers for the American Cancer Society for 15 years now, right? During October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and volunteering my time to go to Hackensack Medical Center or other medical centers throughout the state of New Jersey on behalf of the ACS, I've done those drives to help drive people to chemotherapy sessions. I've done those volunteer drives in terms of helping people at hospitals. And I see that when you're going through chemotherapy, how it ravages your body as it's trying to cure you, ultimately, just absolutely kills your appetite and kills other aspects of your anatomy. And that's when medicinal marijuana comes in really handy. Opens your appetite and provides a very good pain alternative medication when you're going through arguably one of the most uncomfortable situations of your lifetime. When it comes to recreational cannabis, folks, I get it. People like it. People like to smoke. If you suffer from anxiety, maybe pain management, the last thing we need is more people hooked on opioids. Last thing we need is people, experimenting with way too many pain medications, right? We've seen that. I'm a big sports guy, okay? Whether it's the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. Hey, the last thing we need is athletes coping with pain by using medication. Recreational cannabis seems to check off that requirement. And you know what? That's a good thing. Now, again, it's not for me. And I understand that these are businesses that will thrive now in the state of New Jersey, will create revenue, which we're hoping, which again, will go into the municipalities, perhaps fund our schools, give our kids better books, give our kids better technology, more MacBooks, more iPads, better teaching classrooms, better technology, whatever the case may be, folks. These are things that the revenues from cannabis can ultimately benefit. Maybe provide more services for seniors. Maybe provide, the ability to buy more property, set up more affordable housing, whatever the case may be, folks. I'm a pragmatist. I'm an academic, but I also see the pragmatism in the argument. The problem, though, is, folks, is when you're having an oversaturation in the marketplace, sooner or later, a product goes by the wayside. I can't imagine that. I think people who love to smoke weed will continue wanting to smoke weed. Again, it's not for me, but I understand its necessity. And more importantly, I understand the necessity for revenue in a time where inflation is still at all-time high. People are struggling to buy groceries. Hey, if you can save some money with pain management and guess what? Have some money being funneled back into the community via these revenues, that's always a good thing. I hope the city council in Jersey City gets their act together because it seems like they're not on the same page as the cannabis board, the planning board, and quite frankly, this is something that does a disservice, not just to Jersey City residents, but eventually municipalities all throughout the state of New Jersey. And that's our show for this week. Once again, to check out all the excellent content brought to you by the leader in independent media right here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hudson Media Group on YouTube as well. Make sure you like them on Facebook and, of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And, folks, let me just say this about the Hudson Media Group. Someone, quite frankly, that has a lot of faith in my abilities, and certainly I'm not going to drop his name here, but you know who I'm talking about. The CEO here at the Hudson Media Group continues to put out exceptional content. And again, because of your support and your viewing and your traffic, the Hudson Media Group continues to, again, be the leader in information and, quite frankly, getting what you like to watch uploaded on a weekly basis. So, folks, again, I can't say enough. Sharing is caring when it comes to the Hudson Media Group. Share all their content anytime, anywhere you can on all your social media platforms, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even Snapchat. I'm not a big TikTok guy, right? I'm not really into giving the Chinese government my personal information, but wherever it is you do your social media, make sure you bring the Hudson Media Group with you as you do it. Also, folks, check out new episodes of the 7-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, via Blog Talk Radio by going to blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. New episodes, as a matter of fact, will be airing later this month and also in the month of April as well, with some of the best personalities you'll hear from concerning Hudson County politics as this election season continues to heat up. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 100 Latino, via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the People's Choice and the People's Voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, thank you so much for watching.